How's it going, you guys? Welcome to episode 6 of building a workshop on the farm. In this episode, we install some windows, install the soffit, and a lot more. So let's get right into it. We first started on installing the windows. Now here you can see that we didn't have the windows yet, so we just covered the holes with Tyvek wrap. So I'm cutting out the holes. And now if you're wondering, how do you go about installing windows? Again, just type in YouTube how to install windows based on the type of sheathing and weather barrier that you used. Because, if you use zip, it's way different than if you use Tyvek. It's way different than if you used, other options. It really just depends, again, what you used for sheathing and the weather barrier. After we cut the house wrap out, we then went ahead and put pretty much like a protective tape on the bottom of the window. And this tape, it really was not that good of quality. We got it from Home Depot. If I were to do it again, I would definitely get the zip stretch tape. I've used the zip stretch tape since, and it's just so much better. After we had put down the waterproof tape, we basically put the window just straight on in there. And it's really important that you get your window level. If not, it won't open right, or it might have problems opening. So we always make sure it's level, and then we just go around the flange and we nail it, and we use roofing nails. After the windows were installed, it was time to install the soffits. Now for this, we're just using some 1x10 pine. And for the soffit vent, we actually just got this at Home Depot and spray painted it black, and it worked out pretty well. So as you can see here, we would do one side, put the vent in, and then we would go back and do the other side. Now to nail this up, we're just using a Milwaukee cordless framing nailer, and it works really well. It doesn't leave the nicest finished. So later on, when we started the siding, we would actually switch to a siding nailer. Next up, we installed the corner boards for the siding. And for this, we just used some 2x6 pine. Now, the reason we use 2x6 pine instead of a 1x6 is that we're going to add stripping along the sides and back of the building. So when we add the siding, we can do shiplap. So this way, the corner boards will stick out and give it a little bit of definition. And the reason why we ended up hand nailing this is because our siding nailer wouldn't use large enough nails. It was a lot of hammering, but it was really good. When we got to the next side, we got smart and used a hand nailer connected to our air compressor, and that made things go a lot faster.
So this morning, Jack and I are going to trim out all the windows, garage door. So the first thing we're going to do is, instead of leaving this flat where water's going to come back into the window, we're actually going to angle it for the same angle of the side of the window. So it all matches. This water will run off here, hit here. We'll of course caulk this with clear caulking, but it'll run off here. We'll also put an angle on the sideboard of the trim so it all matches up. So once we get one window completed, we'll try to video this as we do it. When we get one completed, we'll kind of go around close up and let you guys take a look at it. So another thing to mention, and most of you probably know this, but just in case, all window seals, at least the exterior, are slanted to keep the water from going in. And that's why we're slanting our trim, is so that the water will continue to carry off the side of the building and not come behind the window. Again, these are slanted at a pretty good angle, and you can see the angle here in which we're replicating so that the water will continue to shed off the window. So again, we'll show you some close-ups as we do it. As you saw that we drove those huge nails in, and we're trying to make sure not to damage the siding and trying to get these heavy duty nails in. This right here, this palm nailer, makes it significantly easier. And then you don't damage your siding, you don't damage the molding. The trim work looks much better. Take another look at it. And it gets it flush, so really works well. Let's move on, Jack. What else we got? Top. Let's measure that. Another thing to think about is you're putting your trim up, whether it's indoors or indoor trim or outdoor trim, especially on these big wide 4x that we're putting up around these windows. These are 2x4s, true 4 inches. Make sure you think about how you framed the inside of the building. Because if you try to drive a nail here and you didn't account for the wider trim, you're gonna end up hitting nothing but air behind the sheetrock or air behind the OSB. Fortunately, we thought about it as we were framing, and we doubled and tripled up the jacks and basically the king studs. So the king studs, instead of having just one king stud, we did a double king stud, and we got plenty to nail to. So just a pro tip, something to think about. Well, I wouldn't call it a pro tip, but certainly a tip for you guys to think about when you're framing the building and what kind of trim you're going to use. Okay guys, when you get ready, I only need a half a saw blade. People say, well, what the hell is a half a saw blade? I'm about to show you. Jack, you may have to rotate the camera around here. I'm going to show them how to do a half a saw blade. So saw blades have a little flex in them. Take your board and you rotate all the way around here, Jack. So to get a half a saw blade, take your board and put it against the saw blade. Just put a little flex in it. Lift your blade up, and then when you come down, as you can see, the teeth are just barely going to grab it. So push. And you see that you're literally getting a half a saw blade. So what happens is the blade has some flex, but when it starts spinning, that flex goes out of it, and it actually cuts a half a saw blade. That's how you do a half.
Next up, we started routing some 1x8s for the gable end soffit. So basically what we're doing is we're using a rabbiting bit, which is creating a shiplap joint in the boards. So we'll be able to use shiplap for the soffits, which will look really good. So we wanted to use the most powerful hand routers that we could find, as we really didn't have a shaper or anything else to make the shiplap really fast. So what he's using here is a Makita 3¼ horsepower plunge router, and it works great for this. Now we would put the 1x8 on some sawhorses and clamp it down, and I did speed these videos up, but it would take a long time to do this, so I'm going to slow it down into normal speed and you guys can see for yourself. Now, after we had routed what seemed like thousands of boards, we started to install them on the gable end soffit. And what you can see I'm doing here is I'm cutting them to the right size. Mr. Dobbins is on the ladder and he's installing them with a siding nailer. And his father's the one who's actually handing them to him. So we had a pretty good system going.
We went ahead and finished the soffit this morning on the front. Now we're going up the gable end so we can start doing a furring so we can get siding on. But before we do that, we've got to get the gable end finished up here. So as you can see, we're running it from front to back. Now we're going to turn around and go back to front. We'll meet up at the top of the peak here and finish it out. I just finished the gable end soffit. As you can see, we ran it up the ridge there. So Metabo, they call this, it's a coil gun first of all, and they call it I think not a finish gun, but a siding gun. And my overall take on it is it's a cheap gun. Let me just tell you that right now. But it's effective and it's efficient. It weighs very little, holds a lot of nails, as you can see in there. My biggest complaint was it came without one of these, what I'll call a clip. So the first week I used it, I cussed it and threw it down. So it's pretty tough. I threw it probably a couple times. Once we got the clip on it, works much better. The gun works the same, but it's much easier to use, and you can use it on ladders and stuff. So I'd give it, for quality and long term, maybe a 5. For utility, ease of use, effective, probably a 8.5, 9. So it's a pretty good gun. Just won't last very long. We'll end up throwing it away after a few jobs and probably have to buy another one.
So why would you use this gun instead of a framing nailer, like a pass load?
Well, you're going to get you're going to a better looking finished nail. Pass load and stuff, a framing nailer, you know, the heads of the nail, first of all, aren't perfectly round. Second of all, it's not designed to be pretty like this gun. This gun's really designed to have a pretty finished nail. Not a finished nail, but a siding nail. So that's why you'd want to use this gun versus, say, a pass load framing gun. And then, of course, we have finish nailers too for the inside. You'll see some of those. This is not designed for that. It's designed for siding. So there are nail guns for everything nowadays. You think about it, there's a nail gun for it. So anyway, talk to you later, guys.
And that is it for episode 6. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, it helps out the channel a lot, and we will see you in the next video.